Welcome to Whose Line Was It Anyway, where the quotes may or may not be made up, and the points, they definitely matter, because what good is it in life if you can't keep score?
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everyone, and welcome to the show today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Going to be a fun show today. Jeff is going to take a quiz. He's going to see if he knows his friend AI as well as he knows his friend Chris Antonetti. But first, we'll talk about Winter Meetings preview, if the Guardians are going to actually do anything. We've got some weird, sort of Lane Thomas rumors going around. And then we got some draft news to get to at the end of the show. So today's show is packed with all kinds of fun stuff. You're going to want to stick around for all of it. I'm Justin. He's Jeff. We've both written about the Guardians since 2007 about draft prospects. If you've read a Cleveland baseball blog, we've probably been on there or aggregated there. Those are your intros for the day. Let's get going. The Winter Meetings finally starts next week. Nothing's going to happen because nothing ever happens to the Winter Meetings. If Juan Soto signs somewhere, that could degum some things, hopefully, and there is.
He's supposed to sign next week, right?
Yeah, I think that's the expectation, hopefully, and that might move the process along for other things, less so for the Guardians. But let's first talk about this. So Ken Rosenthal a couple of days ago had like his What I'm Hearing column on The Athletic, and he mentioned the Guardians might trade Josh Naylor, or they might trade Lane Thomas. These are things they could consider. He had another column on Thursday we both read, and we were kind of talking back and forth about it.
We had very different views.
We did. It was different wording from Ken Rosenthal. So, like I said, the earlier column said these are things they could consider, and then his wording on Thursday I thought was more like they're going to listen. And I know the Guardians listen to everybody not named Jose Ramirez at this point, but I'm kind of curious that now he's mentioned it twice, and now he's saying, well, they're going to listen. And maybe you can say they always listen, but I do find it interesting that he's mentioned it twice and he changed his wording to they might listen. And that might not mean anything at all, but I'm at least paying attention to see what that means. And I'm hoping whoever goes to, I think it's Orlando, no, it's Dallas. The Winter Meetings are in Dallas. I hope one of Mandy Bell or Paul Hoynes or Joe Noga, or I don't know if Zach's going or not. I hope one of them asks about Lane Thomas, because I'm a little curious that his name is even on the radar, to be honest with you.
I think it's all BS. I think it's all words I can't say. And the reason is pretty simple, because he says they're open to, we know Cleveland's open to trading everyone who isn't Jose. Like at this point, they'll at least listen on everyone. They've
not
always
Tanner yet.
I mean, they will listen. They're not going to say no. And
they'll say it's good to gauge value. How our teams value your players.
Because then he follows up the whole they're open to this by saying, well, they're in their last year and they're making money, and Lane Thomas hasn't been there as long. So he's like, it was all, because then he follows it up with just complete conjecture, BS, and the things we're used to. So I think this is someone filling some time with much ado about nothing, because, we're all because no one gets fed anything anymore. Like he's sitting there talking about the Guardians in an article, 30 minutes before the Severino news drops, which we'll get to later in the show. It's like Ken Rosenthal isn't breaking any news. No one is feeding him the information. He's getting tidbits, but he's looking to fill, and he's doing, the Lord's work by writing about baseball as much as he is, because the only other person who writes about baseball as much as him is Jim Bowden, and Bowden's crap. Let's be honest. He is bad.
Well, Bowden knows less than Ken Rosenthal, which is
that's not even close. Yeah, no. I mean, one guy I respect, and the other, I think very, very.
It's hard
very,
to even say the word respect in the same sentences as.
I mean, he was he
was a GM at one time. That's about.
He was a GM that people in his organization stole money from Latin American kids, and then he told on those other people.
We don't need to go there.
It's a mess. And somehow he still has a big job.
Yeah.
It's kind of ugly. And there's other things. That's, if it was one thing, it'd be one thing. But we got to move on from that. Rosenthal, I respect the heck out of. I think he's really doing. But I think in this case, he's just looking for things to write about. And I don't think. I think there is no smoke. There is no fire. To me, it was just this is worthless reporting.
I don't think he's not writing about anything, because I don't think Ken Rosenthal's that kind of reporter.
I think he puts out an article a day almost.
He's not John Morosi.
No, he's not. He's not making things up, but he's also.
By the way, I respect this like a a sideline guy because he speaks
Yeah,
Spanish. But
no,
not
it's
necessarily
and
on
Morosi's
social
a good
media.
sideline guy, but Morosi just kind of throws
And a
stuff at
good
a
dude.
wall.
So,
But I think
you're
this is just
saying-
him reporting on the general idea. Like, he is smart enough to know everything he said there is true, and he doesn't need any backing or anything for it. Like, everything he said is technically true, and he can write that, and he can talk about a contending team to fill this spot he needs to fill in his article while he's talking about Juan Soto at the top and, other stuff. Like, it's a good filler piece. You need filler occasionally in the offseason when nothing is happening. And he just kind of restated. I don't think there's, Cleveland's open to everyone.
They are open to everybody, and I don't think everything that you're saying is wrong about that. But I don't buy one of the things about the Athletic was supposed to be not having filler.
They're
So
loaded with
think
filler.
it's totally filler.
That site is all filler anymore. Ever since they got bought, they are 60% filler. I would, if it wasn't
it wasn't supposed to be the intention.
It wasn't, but it's what it's become, unfortunately. Like, if they didn't offer me $2 per month when I went to cancel mine this year, I would no longer be an Athletic subscriber because it is so much filler. There's
Be
like
an
5
Athletic
people like,
or be an Athletic supporter.
I
Tell me what that movie's from. Okay, no, I don't think what you're saying is wrong as far as speculation, but the quote the stuff you're looking at, I think is conjecture after the fact. But I do think that the thing he wrote was, but it should surprise no one that Cleveland is open to trade offers for first baseman Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas, who are both entering their walk year. He mentioned them specifically by name. I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else is in a walk here. That might be
no
the only
one.
guys.
They don't have anyone else.
And maybe that's why. But I don't know. I'm just a little curious that he mentioned it twice and mentioned him by name. And I don't know. I'm just keeping my feeler, my ears perked up a little bit to see if this picks up a little bit more, because I think it's at least interesting. It may be nothing, but I'm at least keeping the ear to the ground on why this is popping up. As far as the rest of the winter meetings is concerned, what do you expect when you expect nothing? Because we're laughing so we don't cry, right? Because let's be honest, nothing's going to happen at the winter meetings, at least for the Guardians. They did sign Josh Bell 2 years ago at the winter meetings, and that turned out fantastic.
I'm sorry, Austin Hedges is your third UFA at the end of the year.
He's already signed. You're saying
but it's another 1-year contract.
Oh.
So there's 3 players. It's not 2. He didn't mention Hedges as a trade candidate.
Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah,
That's the only other guy.
Yeah. So are the Guardians going to do something at the winter meetings? Free agency, trade, or will they make a Rule 5 selection, Jeff?
They're going to enjoy some nice
Dallas
weather,
Cleveland, Ohio,
and they're going to have some breakfast bars and talk with some friends, and they're going to leave. They're going to leave having done nothing.
I'm going to predict they're going to sign a free agent starting pitcher.
I'm going to predict that they do nothing.
Should I say who?
I'll say this. I don't know if you can share it or not, but
I texted you with one.
I know. And I'll say in the past, I have had good intel that they liked that player coming out of school, that they strongly considered him in his draft year, and that they made multiple trade offers at various points in time for that player.
Let's just throw the name out there. Nothing concrete, but let's just guess that this player in the past and this player now could be Griffin Canning. So I'm not saying they're going to sign him, but I'm saying that's a name that wouldn't shock me if they get connected to sometime this week or sometime this winter.
Can I, before people like, well, he's terrible, can I throw something out? I thought Mike Petriola on Blue Sky had a great thing today where he talked about baseball teams aren't looking at stats for pitchers anymore. They're not looking at stats. They're not looking at the stats we look at. The stats we look at are fine, but the gap between what they have and what we have has never been greater. And they're looking for traits. They're looking for, like, Griffin Canning probably has a top 5 changeup in baseball. He does. Like, that pitch is absolutely deadly. And he comes from an absolute poop show of development with the Angels. So there is a world where, and they overused him at points. There's been health issues. He was at UCLA where, he was practically abused as a pitcher there. So there's a lot of things where there's chances to get more out of him. So teams are not looking at FIP. They're never looking at WAR for pitchers, if we're being honest. They're not looking at ERA. They're not really even looking at K rate in the majors. They're looking for traits and things they think they can fix and what is present and what is fixable.
Exactly. Yeah, they're looking at the whole picture. They're looking at
Yes.
everything that's below the surface. What's already there? What can be fixed? What do they see that's low hanging fruit? And Griffin Canning could be one of those guys. I still think Patrick Sandoval makes a ton of sense, but I think he's going to have more suitors. I don't think the Patrick Sandoval thing will be taken care of this week, no matter what, because he's got a while before he's going to be healthy anyway. But Canning's out there. I'll say they get something done this week. And then in Rule 5, I know you think they're going to take a minor league catcher in the Rule 5, and they only have Cody Huff in AAA right now. So I think that makes sense. I'll say they're going to lose Ryan Webb in the Rule 5 draft. That's my only.
I think that could happen. I just, as a potential lefty reliever, I could
also will not be totally shocked. I know you're going to say no. I won't be totally shocked if someone takes George Valera. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I also am not going to sit back and be like, whoa, that's crazy.
I think it's crazy because you could have had him and not had to play the 25-man roster game. If you had just put him on your 40-man when the Guardians cut him, then you don't have to pay.
Look what the Orioles do with Anthony Santander.
But you didn't have to play it at all. Like, you're going to do the same thing. Why pay $50,000?
Because if you signed him to your roster before the Rule 5 draft, you
but I'm saying
protect him, and then somebody else could swipe him.
But you could have. He was a free agent. You could have signed him and put him on your 40-man when you signed him.
True, you could have. It was too late. It was too late.
But if you sign
by the time he was let go, the deadline had passed, so there was no protection.
Anyone you sign, you can then add your 40-man. It's why if you sign a free agent, they're protected. So if someone had signed him and added him to an open
deal, okay,
so then why pay $50,000 and even play the game?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think the chances are zero. That's what I would say.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
and there's always a occasional wild card here or there. I wouldn't be, I'd really have to look at the roster and see. I wouldn't be shocked. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked.
I do like him. Yeah. All right. What I do like is our game coming up next. Jeff needs to decide if Chris Antonetti said this or if Chris AI-Tonetti said this. Stick around for our game coming up in just a second. Check out our friends over at Game Time. If you chose to go to the Cavs game from Game Time on Thursday, you would have had a great time. You would have gotten great seats. You would have seen a great win because Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff you need to get incredible deals. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You got Christmas coming up. You want to get your friends, family, significant others, some great events. There's a comedy show coming up I really want to go see. Nate Bargatze's coming back to Cleveland next year, a long time in the future next year. But I'm going to use the Game Time app because I know I'm going to find a great deal at the last minute. I'm going to find the right seats for that as well. It's going to show me exactly where I want to be in the arena to watch that as well and get the best price on it. And I'm going to turn in the all-in pricing whenever I use Game Time because it's going to tell me exactly what it's going to cost me to get into the arena with no surprise fees at checkout. There's none of this putting tickets into your checkout and thinking you're going to pay one price and then you end up getting hit with a bunch of fees you weren't expecting later. The all-in pricing option stops that. No surprise fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get 20 hours off your first purchase on top of all those other benefits I just told you about. Create your account, redeem the code, terms apply, but use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your very first purchase on Game Time. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Jeff, it is time for our feature presentation. All right, so we know that the Winter Meetings is full of a bunch of fluff and a bunch of things that don't even matter when it comes to quotes. And we know Chris Antonetti and other GMs are going to say a lot of things that mean absolutely nothing because these guys reveal absolutely nothing. So our good friends over at AI and some past quotes that actually came from real Chris Antonetti. Does Jeff know if it was Chris Antonetti who said this or Chris AI-Tonetti? Are you ready, Jeff?
No, but let's go for it.
First quote. That's a bad trade. Is that Chris Antonetti or is that Chris AI-Tonetti?
See, it makes no sense for Chris Antonetti to say that's a bad trade unless he's talking about like the idea of a trade in general would be a bad trade. So I feel like you're trying to trick me that like he's talking about the idea of a bad trade and not actually calling a trade a bad trade. So I think it's actually Chris Antonetti because the gut feeling is to be like, no, a GM would never say that's a bad trade.
That is Chris Antonetti. Now, to be fair, that was not a Winter Meetings quote. It was a quote from October of last year when he said to Mandy Bell after it was October. It was about the Junior Caminero trade specifically. They came out and joked it was a bad trade. So they admitted Junior Caminero, that was a fail. All right, question number 2. Quote number 2. We've had a lot of conversations about pitching depth this offseason. Frankly, our margin for error there is thinner than we'd like, so it's an area we're focused on addressing. Is this Chris Antonetti or is this Chris AI-Tonetti?
I think it's the AI. I don't know if they would ever say it's an area we're focused on addressing. I feel like they're never quite that exact, so I'm going to guess it's AI.
That is Chris AI-Tonetti. You're right. I did tell ChatGPT to make up some very realistic sounding quotes that revealed just a little too much about their game plan. So you're right. That is Chris
Yeah, it was like it's maybe a little too much on that nose there.
All right. At the end of the day, is this Chris Antonetti or Chris AI-Tonetti? At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure every GM in the room feels like they just solved baseball. We hope we actually did.
I'm going to say this is real. I'm going to say this is one of those that they did in reference to something.
That is Chris AI-Tonetti. Chris Anthony did not talk about solving baseball. He is not.
Yeah, probably should have got that.
That was a good one, though, from Chris AI-Tonetti. Next one. We have outstanding offers both ways on trades and free agents. We could go in either direction or both. Chris AI-Tonetti or Chris Antonetti?
I feel like that is just so evasive where he's saying a whole lot of nothing that's the real guy.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm going to go with it, even though the outstanding is throwing me a little there, but we'll see.
You are right. That is Chris Antonetti, as told to Paul Hoynes of Cleveland.com way back in 2013. Actually, I found that one. So I went back into the archives for a couple of these, to be honest with you. It was hard. I wanted to find some really good ones. Here's another one from Chris Antonetti or Chris AI-Tonetti. Could it be either or? We don't need to be in a room with another team to make a trade. We have relationships with our peers and front offices across the game, so we can make decisions with our phones or via text like we do the other 258 days of the year when we're not together.
I think didn't they say this like last year or 2 years ago about like having not a lot of people at the winter meetings? It almost feels like it's close, but not quite one they said, but I still think it might be him.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That was Chris Antonetti, as told to Jordan Bashan, MLB.com, back in 2017. So, yeah.
So it wasn't recent. It was a long time
ago. It wasn't
ago.
recent. No. So, for someone who says that they forget things the next day about a lot of things, you did get that one right. All right. Let's see. Let's get the next one here. It always feels like there are a lot of conversations on trades among teams. The last couple of winter meetings have felt maybe externally not that active, but they felt busy to us. We're not sitting here very often thinking, hey, what are we going to do today? We have nothing to talk about. Is that Chris AI-Tonetti or is that Chris Antonetti?
I think that's the AI.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That is Chris Antonetti, as told to Fangraphs, and I believe, let me check real quick. Let's go to the tape. I believe this was told to David Larola of Fangraphs.com back in 2019.
Interesting. So, like, it kind of threw me at the like the first half of it did, but we're definitely the part about like we're not sitting around for things to do. I don't know, for some reason that made me think it wasn't them. So,
all right.
At least that was my logic.
We've got number 7. Is this Chris AI-Tonetti or is it Chris Antonetti? We've had productive discussions this week. While there's nothing immediate to announce, we've definitely moved closer to understanding what's realistic and what's not.
So now I'm getting into the whole thing where it's like, well, we haven't had an AI in a while, but I feel like this is. So I'm going to say this.
You're sure? This is Chris AI-Tonetti?
No, I think this is him. I'm going to say it's not
Chris Antonetti?
Yeah.
That is Chris AI-Tonetti. ChatGPT version of Chris Antonetti.
It was a little too definitive, but I also didn't want to, like, there's this part of me that just wanted to guess AI because we hadn't had AI in a while. So then I was like, no, but then I can't. So let's go the opposite.
Yes. I know you're a teacher, so I knew you don't give a lot of quizzes, obviously, what you do, but I know when you think.
I use Quiz all the time. That's my go-to software.
So that's what I was trying to do.
Give a shout out and recommendation. If you need something that can read aloud to students, Quiz.
There's always a lot of dialogue at the winter meetings. For every 100 conversations, maybe one leads to a deal. The other 99 are just free therapy sessions for other GMs. Chris Antonetti or Chris AI-Tonetti?
I'm going to say AI. Out of the free therapy sessions just throws me off here. So I'm saying it's AI.
All right. That was probably a little bit of a giving the therapy session. I thought it was hilarious. So we had to throw in some some ones that weren't actually.
I was
too
waiting for the
realistic.
one about like cats or random like
Well, I've got some good ones in here. I got some good ones left.
where like all the internet craziness has made ChatGPT sometimes vaguely racist and or very focused on things that aren't real.
Let's be honest. Right now, that whole experiment, I'm just training ChatGPT to take our jobs here. One day it'll just be AI talking to you from our podcast, and we'll be gone. All right, next one. Chris AI-Tonetti or Chris Antonetti. We've had a lot of dialogue with a lot of teams and a lot of different concepts. You're hopeful that eventually leads to a trade that makes sense for us, but we also know that for one of every 100 of these, we're only likely to get one done or two.
I'm going to say that's real. I feel like that could be something that they've had. I'm going to say that's actually him.
Very similar to the last quote, about 100 of these, you only get one done.
Yeah.
So you're sure this is the real one?
I think this is real.
It is real. 2017, as told to Jordan Bash and MLB.com at the time. All right. A couple more, and we'll move on. We got some draft stuff to talk about, but I got a couple more ridiculous ones in here I think are really funny. I'll give a couple of these away. We've looked at some multi-team trade scenarios. It's not easy to pull off, but if we're going to move a top prospect, it has to be the kind of deal that significantly improves our outlook, both short and long term. Is that Chris Antonetti or is that Chris AI-Tonetti?
I feel like that's AI. I can't remember them ever talking about the idea of a 3-teamer before it happened. So watch me be wrong, but I think that's AI.
That is correct. Actually, it is AI.
I've only missed two. I'm doing way better than I expected. I got to be honest. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
I'm starting to get a little cocky over here. I'm like, wow, look at me.
I did not have a lot of high hopes for you. I'm sorry, buddy, but I didn't
either. I was like, I'm gonna bat 300, like a great hitter, and instead, I'm like,
all right. Well, let's see if we get the last two. The winter meetings are a bit like speed dating. You meet a lot of potential matches, but at the end of the day, you're just hoping you don't say something awkward in front of the Dodgers, or in our case, Tampa Bay.
I don't. Part of me feels like that's there, but I don't feel like them naming teams. So I'm gonna say AI. There's a part of me that really does think this is real. Of all of them, this is the hardest one, but I'm gonna say AI.
That was AI. I threw Tampa Bay in there just to throw you off because they have made jokes about their trades with Tampa Bay in the past. But
they never mentioned teams, so that's what got me.
Here's the last one. Someone suggested we trade for Shohei Ohtani and put him in center field. I told him, why stop there? Let's see if he can close too.
I feel like he never addresses players. That has to be AI, right?
Is it?
You can't talk about a player on another team.
Okay. That was AI. That was pretty obvious. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was a ChatGPT generated one. I thought that was funny about the.
Was that 10? Was I 8 out of 10?
That was 12. You got 10 out of 12.
10 out of 12. Wow.
Yeah.
I more than passed. I got like high B, right?
Yeah, overachiever over here.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments or on social media somewhere. Let us know how you did if you were following along and playing the quiz. I've also got, for anybody who's interested, I can send them a copy of this or send them a link to this. But we did create Chris Antonetti Winter Meetings.
Let's be fair. Justin created this. He put in the time and effort. I don't get any credit. He put in the time and effort.
I took some quotes out of these that were real from past Winter Meetings, and I got some listener suggestions. I think Mike Fingerbottom gave us a couple of these. These are all on a bingo card. I have a website that randomized the card, so everyone gets something different. So if you want a link to a card to download, let me know. I don't know if anybody will get bingo, but if you do, we'll give you a shout out on the show. So we have some fun with the Winter Meetings this week and next week, because let's be honest, we don't expect anything to actually happen of substance. And if we don't laugh, we'll cry, right? That's usually how it goes. Why
can they not get their off seasons right? Why?
Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball.
Thanks for playing Chris AI or Chris AI-Tonetti with me, Jeff. We got some draft stuff to talk about now. So back to the serious stuff in just a second. Jeff's got some good draft news for the Guardians coming up. I think you'll want to hear this because next week we are going to talk a little more draft, and this is the precursor. So get ready.
But first, we got to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. And before we get into the ad read, so I told you to, start betting on the Jackets. It looks like they're going to go 0-2 since I made that statement. So don't listen to me, but listen to Justin, who told you to go with the over on the game for what is now yesterday with the Nuggets and the Cavs. We know which person here is better at that. And the answer is, while I might be better at the AI questions, we don't know. I guess I'll have to do the reverse. Justin is definitely better on the betting leads. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, the sportsbook app, gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more, all at the same place where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Appreciate you guys making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on YouTube. Even if you don't really watch us on YouTube, give us a subscription. We'd appreciate that. If you are a YouTube subscriber, we'd love it if you download it on your phone too, so we can get that side of things and let us know if you're doing that. Also, I want to throw this out there real quick. For people who, respond to us on different social media, or if you're an audio listener, let us know if you'd be interested in an email for the show. I know we have a lot of people who listen who don't comment all the time, people who listen that aren't watching on video, or maybe they don't use social media. If you think email the show might be an interesting way to go, let us know. We're looking at some different avenues of communication and insider program. I'm supposed to sit down and figure out too. Let us know if you've been interested in that as well. But we appreciate you guys listening. This is our second to last week of 5 days in a row until
February.
So we'll be with you 5 days next week during the winter meetings. And then after that, we'll go down to 3 days a week. And then we'll continue that until about spring training starts. So we got one more week of 5 days together. So we'll have a lot of good shows for you planned there. But if you want to stay in communication with us, let us know. If you're not a YouTube person, if you're not a social media person, if email or an insider program would be something you would be interested in. All right. And one of those things I think inside that insider program we will talk about is the MLB draft. Some good stuff happened for Major League Baseball, I think. I think it's a good thing. Yeah, the Athletics signed Luis Severino to a weird contract that we didn't expect, which also tells me that the pitching market for the Guardians just is not going to be good free agent wise. But I mean, it's good that someone gave him that much money. It's a good sign that money's flowing, and we didn't think it would be. So, but that move to sign Severino to Sacramento, I should say, does affect the Guardians in terms of the draft. And we did find out some other draft news for the Guardians on Thursday.
Yes, there's actually a few weird things. Like I had forgotten about the fact that Bobby Witt's top 3 finish gave the Royals an extra pick this year. Did you remember that? I had forgotten that was a thing, that they got a bonus first rounder for that, thanks to those new rules. But which it just goes in the overall
under
calculus.
Contract?
Yeah, because it's the PPG rules. If I got to look at it could yield, Baseball America was on it, but yeah, basically because of him coming up, and how young he is, him being a top.
Even though he's not a rookie?
Yeah.
It's got to be like under the arbitration year thing, even though he's had a deal.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be if it's a top 3 AL MVP or a Cy Young that you get the bonus pick. I got to go back and look at those rules, but I'd forgotten about that rule. So that's something that stands out. So, but here's the big thing. So Cleveland is guaranteed the 27th pick. The one thing I'm not seeing properly reported in general right now, which is a little bit weird, is no one is sitting down and talking about the fact that the Yankees and Mets are both going to drop 10 spots because they're so far over. Like everyone still lists the Mets at like 28.
27. No, right now, if you look, the Mets are 27 on like Tankathon or whatever.
Well, Tankathon doesn't have the rules right because each individual grouping is not about it. It's Cleveland would always pick before the Mets, no matter what, because one pays lottery, the other doesn't. Tankathon, I love Tankathon, but there are certain things they just don't do well at all, and that's the draft pick stuff. But no one has them dropping. But that's not the biggest part of it here. So Cleveland, because they had the best record of anyone who had a Comp B pick, they get, went the farthest. They get the top pick at the Comp B round. I did keep that open for once. So last year, it was the 66th overall pick, was that selection. but I think it's shaping up for potentially less bonus picks. We'll have to kind of wait and see a bit. So I'm curious to see, a lot of it's going to depend on free agents. For instance, the Luis Severino signing that benefits Cleveland. One, I don't know what Oakland's doing. Like, go ahead and spend. It's great that Oakland is spending, but Severino.
They're not Oakland, they're Sacramento. Or they're just the Athletics.
They're just the Athletics.
They're Athletics or they're Athletic supporters.
I mean, that front office has been a poop show for a while. They signed a injury-plagued arm to a long contract, and then they gave up a top 50 pick. They lost their third overall selection. Oakland has a comp A pick this year, so that means they gave up a top 10 second round pick to sign an older arm with health issues. I don't get that, but Cleveland benefits because what happens is that pick gets eliminated. Oakland's pick is essentially deleted from the draft. So Cleveland's pick in the second round, their comp pick, their third rounder, and their fourth rounder all move up one spot. The Mets will get a pick after the fourth round because of how deep in the luxury they are. So it used to be like the Mets would get a first rounder. That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's based on your spending. So the Mets comp pick is until the end of the fourth round. So when that pick gets eliminated, everyone else moved up. So Cleveland actually probably gets about $50,000. I think my final calculation was about 48,000, but that was very much a napkin type of deal. I did not do all the numbers. So I would just round it to 50. And especially with the ability to go over up to, 5% minus a penny and not lose a draft pick. So that's 50,000 more. I know what you're thinking. Oh, 50,000. This team spends their draft money. That's the one thing you can count on. They take that total as far as they can go. They just had the most expensive draft class in the history of baseball. An extra 50,000 is the difference between getting, a guy on day 3 and getting a guy on day 3. That extra money gives you that ability to negotiate a little bit more and to get some guys you wouldn't. Every dime matters in the draft, because if there is a player who's still on the board who doesn't really want to go back to school or doesn't want to go to college, and you can offer him 30,000 more often than not, that's going to get it done on day 3. Especially if that's a pitcher and Cleveland has the, the reputation that they have, which we talked about earlier in the week, but for all of the ups and downs with it, like Matthew Boyd's resurgence this year just helps the organization still look good. Like there are those things that still paint them in a very positive light. So
it's not all bad.
No, it's valuable. The 27th overall pick, for those who looked at my mock draft that I posted over in Blue Sky, I had Ethan Petrie as a top Cape performer. MLB.com released their top 100 list today. He is currently 29th on their list. I mentioned Nick Dumasel is a sleeper for mine. He is 35th on their list. I know Justin likes Brock Snell. There'll be some guys. Next Tuesday, we are committed to doing another live stream of the MLB Draft Lottery. Cleveland doesn't have a pick, but it gives us a chance to talk draft, and no one's covering this. It's something that last year, I think half of our people who watched it were Guardians fans, and we had Mets fans, we had Royals fans, we had all of that stuff. So we want to still provide that. We want to be there. I think it's fun to watch. I understand the rules a lot better. I won't get confused like I did at points last year. I can't find my Bird Dogs hat, like the lucky hat that I threw into the Raptors. That hat has like disappeared. Like it was some kind of weird magic. It is gone. I cannot find my Bird Dogs or my Locked On hat. They just disappeared.
Well, Bird Dogs disappeared, so that's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the hat I was wearing, was the Bird Dogs hat. It was like a good luck hat. I gotta,
I got mine somewhere.
I've cleaned out the whole basement. Can't find that darn thing anywhere. But it's Cleveland. Severino going to Oakland is the best possible situation because the team that gets the comp pick, it doesn't really affect Cleveland, and the team that loses the pick allowed 4 draft picks to move up. And
what's he going to do in Oakland though? There's no baseball being played. What's he going to do there?
He's just going to chill, just hang out.
Yeah, can you surf in Oakland?
I don't know, but he's not going to pitch a ton because he's going to get hurt again. Like, the reason I make fun of, I won't say make fun, that's not the right word, but the reason I make my jokes about like DeLauder and Espino and guys like this is because, I mean, health, the one thing we can traditionally look at is health is, pretty.
The best prediction of future injury is past injury.
And
unfortunately,
Severino is pretty much been like the most injury. If you want to look for a positive outcome for Daniel Espino, think of, Severino missed like 2 or 3 full seasons as well. Like it's a big, Andy has an opt out after 2 years. So if he's good, he's gone. Like, It's a weird contract. Again, I think Oakland did weird money last year too, if you remember, right before. Like they signed a bunch of like not great contracts right before. They're committed to making it appear that they're spending a little bit of money without like
actually
doing
doing
it.
anything.
I think they just
Well,
either
it'd be great
threw
if Cleveland
darts at a
actually made
wall.
that same appearance. Actually, That'd be
I
good.
mean, I wish Cleveland would make a similar appearance, but
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hope you enjoyed our game show. We hope you enjoyed the draft talk. We hope you enjoyed everything this week. If you missed an episode this week, please go back and listen. We did 5 of them. Jeff did one on his own. I did one on my own. We did a lot of stuff this week. I don't remember all of it, but it's out there. It's on YouTube. It's on wherever you get your favorite podcast. So listen to it. Let us know. Let us know if you have ideas for future shows, anything you want to hear. We'll do a mailbag eventually. We'll be back on Monday. We'll do Monday morning headlines, whether that means the Guardians did something or something happened that could affect the Guardians, like Luis Severino signing and it impacts the draft. I know there's a coach the Guardians hired. We didn't really get to that this week, so we can get into that next week as well. We can mention a couple of those things. And then if nothing happens, we'll do a position review. Let us know what position you want us to review next. And we'll talk about how the Guardians can address fixing that position or what comes next there. We'll definitely do some more winter meetings recap. We'll recap whatever news or quotes. I'll make Jeff play Chris AI-Tonetti or Chris Antonetti again next week, maybe, if everyone liked that. Or he might not give us anything to even talk about, so we might not do it at all. We'll definitely talk more Rule 5. We'll talk about some more guys in the Rule 5 draft the Guardians might lose. And we'll talk about guys maybe we think they might select. So we'll definitely get into that as well. And like I said, we'll do Trade Talk Thursday no matter what. And then maybe a position review on Friday, or maybe we'll do a mailbag. But 5 more shows next week. It's our last week of 5 shows, so stick with us. And then after that, it'll be 3 a week, but we'll still be around for the whole off season, and we hope you will be too.
Yeah, we want to thank you all for joining us. Sorry, I was trying to get more on that PPI situation that Matt Eddy was reporting. I'm a little confused myself, so maybe I'll put some clarification in the comments below. But hey, let's do another random. What is your favorite Christmas treat? Let's make that the comment of the day. Thank you all for joining us, rating and reviewing, downloading. It helps. Thank you to every one of our everydayers. And go Guardians, go.